So I think it is that element of giving ourselves that chance, as we talked about before, to make sure that we are kind of being a bit more agile and going, right, is this still working for me? Okay, how do I lean into it a bit more so that we're not just either doing things for the sake of doing things, even if it's not working, and you know, then that's just kind of like the madness, but also recognizing that we don't jump too quickly just because we might be a bit bored or we come across the first obstacle. It's about how do we really connect with what we're doing.
Hello! Welcome back to another episode of Unlocked, the podcast to help inspire success in your business and your life, presented by me, Ricky Locke. In this episode, I talk to the amazing Osmaan Sharif about where to put your energy in your business and how to find your true superpower. For anybody out there right now who's feeling a little bit stuck, then this is the episode for you, as Osmaan will help you understand how to get out your way. Don't forget to check out the show notes at the end of this episode where you can take Osmaan's free quiz that will help you understand the design and strategy and mindset of running your business. Also, I'm giving away my free ebook, How to Create Awesome Videos with a Smartphone. For any listeners out there who wants to improve their video confidence and create amazing videos for their clients or even to sell products, then this ebook will help you from setting up from scratch and some free tips and simple ideas from lighting, from audio, even how to speak on camera. This is the ebook for you, and you can check that out in the show notes. As always, don't forget to rate and leave a little review. Let me know what you think about this episode. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can be notified when every single episode, every Wednesday, will be out. Enjoy the episode. Okay, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Unlocked, the Ricky Locke podcast. And today we have a very exciting guest, someone that I've been talking to over the last couple of weeks and really excited for this chat. And it is the amazing Osmaan Sharif. Hello.
Hello. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. Thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to this chat because I think I will credit here to Scott Leeper and the team at Cognitize, because I watched a really cool presentation from yourself about flow. For people listening, they're not really going to understand this at the minute, but I have a drawing of a potato, which I've still got to this day, which sits on my desk. While they're listening right now, they might not really understand what that means. So maybe you can share that in a second of what that's about. But welcome to the show. And for everybody listening, tell them who you are.
Perfect. Well, I'm Osmaan Sharif. I am from Glasgow, and I am a business and performance and a mindset coach. And I typically work with ex-corporate professionals and turned business owners. And I basically help them to get out of their way to grow their business. So absolutely love what I do. I love making life easier for us human beings. And definitely kind of helping us to think about, well, where are we the worst enemies often when it comes to growing our business, but also generally in life as well.
Definitely. Yeah. I think it's something that's really relative right now, isn't it? And that certain phrase of getting out of your way, I think I've certainly been stuck at times. And some of the strategies that you incorporate in your business really helps businesses get through that. Yeah, so I guess one of the exciting things, we have quite a similar background in a retail and in a corporate world. So tell us how you kind of got into being a coach and a mindset trainer.
Yeah, so I was one of these guys that always thought there was a straight path. You did your kind of schooling, you went to university, you got a graduate job, you climbed the corporate ladder, and that's the path that I was on. So I graduated, did business and management, and then I got onto the Marks and Spencer's graduate program. I always loved working with people. So even from my, part-time jobs, I worked in Sainsbury's as a supervisor for checkouts. Absolutely loved that whole kind of working with people. And then I thought, HR, that's a role where you could really help people. How far wrong was that though? Because it was good on one hand because you got to help focus on people, but my job was very much focused around disciplinaries, grievance, absence, all the parts that I didn't really love. So I managed to really maneuver myself into becoming the regional training manager for Marks and Spencer's then in Manchester. And that was one of those first times where I thought, ooh, I love what I get to do because it's all about training, focus, development, and just getting the best out of people. I also got one of those moments then when I thought, is this it? And I'd worked in retail for many years, all the way through kind of part-time jobs. And then I thought I wanted to break out of the industry. And then, long story short, I moved to the banking industry, fulfilled the dream to go and live and work in the big smoke of London. And at that point, I was able to go on training courses. And the great thing was we had a budget and we were able to basically put any business case forward. And I wanted to go on an NLP course, neuro-linguistic programming, for those that might not know what it is. And I went on that course, and it was one of those moments where I was going, I'm meant to be here on this particular course, because I've always been about helping people and I've always done that in jobs. But on reflection, sometimes it was about talking and talking and talking. So I have been coaching over the years, but when I came across NLP, it was like this magical toolkit where phobias were going really quickly, confidence levels were, shooting through the roof. And I went, this is what I actually want to do. I want to help people to, effectively get transformations and do it in a really quick way. So I then had that crossroads because I thought, well, what do I want to do? Do I keep climbing that corporate ladder? Because I actually enjoyed being part of a team and being part of that larger kind of, organization. And then I went on to do the next level of my NLP. And during that week, I actually got offered a promotion on what I thought was my ideal job. But there was this niggle, Ricky, going, no, Osmaan, you need to do something that really is calling you. So instead of actually accepting that job, I basically quit my job the next day. Great. And that was over 13 years ago. And then I started going up and down the country, teaching a lot of NLP courses. And over the years, many different iterations, but ultimately it's all been about coaching individuals. And then, recently it's been about business owners over the last 5-6 years, particularly. And it's just about how do we use all these amazing tools that we have that many people don't know that they are at our disposal, but how do we help ourselves and our minds to get out of our way?
Definitely. Yeah. I love that phrase that you said, is this it? I think this can absolutely echo with a lot of people. I've certainly felt that. I think especially with this year, we won't drop the C-bomb.
Yeah.
I know that everybody talks about it, but I've certainly felt like that. Definitely in terms of a career, thinking, is this the natural path? And that same kind of thing I was kind of led into. You kind of work to a team leader role, then you go to a managerial role. And then there's not really that many paths of where to take. And I think especially as well, going back to my early days into school, you're not really kind of taught anything outside of that. I think when I was younger, it was definitely go to school, get a job, get some money. And that's pretty much it. So Absolutely. Everything out of that, it's weird, isn't it? It's kind of like a purpose, and like yourself, you found that, you found what you were looking for, and now you're repaying it back by helping businesses get out of their way.
Definitely. And I was even reflecting upon that. So in terms of how we can be so closed-minded and what we can do, because even like I did a business and management degree, but all the way through it, my whole focus was still about how do we use this back in the large corporate world? There was no real focus even during that degree for me personally to go, well, could I do that in more of an entrepreneurial way? But it just gets us to realize actually how much we can be conditioned and then not see some of the opportunities or the potential stuff that literally could be there if we gave it a chance as well.
Definitely, yeah. It can be a very black and white world, can't it, of where to go and what to do. Definitely, I was a similar thing where I was very grateful to get that opportunity to become a regional development coach. And it's only then when I started to open my eyes thinking, wow, there's so much more potential of what I could do and how many people that I can help. So I love that. I love that phrase. Is this it? Yeah, very nice. Very nice. So I guess then in terms of get out your way, the thing we should say is that Osmaan has a podcast as well called Get Out Your Way. And this is where I kind of heard about from Cognitize. So I guess in terms of Rapid Transformation, which is your company.
Yeah.
So what is it that you're predominantly working on right now and what are you helping people with?
So basically, to sum it up from me, it's about, I see so many, ex-corporate professionals, they take this leap of faith. They start their own business. But what they don't actually do is that transition in an effective way. So they can still be trying to grow their business, but they're doing it very much like an employee still and not actually owning I'm the boss. I get to decide to do things in my way. So for me, it's all about, helping support those professionals that had really good careers to also have equally great businesses and to surpass that as well. So I've always been really curious to go, what's that secret sauce that makes, one type of business owner really excel compared to others that go down the kind of the harder route. And first of all, naively, I thought it's all just about, mindset and motivation. But then what I'd find is, I'd help people to get really motivated, get rid of, emotional baggage and blocks, and they'd be feeling great, but they would still go around in circles slightly. And then I'd go, hold on, what are we not addressing? And then I'd work on, right, well, what do we want to make happen? And then people are really super clear. They've got the goals and the vision. But then sometimes it was their motivation or the mindset that was getting in their way. So I kind of quickly realized that actually it's more of a kind of, 3-pronged attack that we need to do. So that's kind of where I kind of developed what I call the rapid transformation formula. And when we focus on these 3 areas, it applies in business, but it also applies in careers and in life. It really allows you to focus on how do we get the best chances of success. So for me, the first part is the design. So what are you actually wanting to make happen? How does that fit in with your values so that it's really important to you? Because that's what helps you to be consistently motivated. How does it fit into specific goals? How does it fit into your personality? And do you have that really clear vision? And without that, that's kind of where a lot of times we're taking action, but we're just doing it like throwing jelly at the wall and hoping that something would stick.
Yeah,
so that's
definitely.
the first part. And do you resonate with that, Ricky? If you don't have that design,
Absolutely.
then you just make life harder than it needs to be.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting to continually review your goals as well, because like I'm a very visual guy. So in terms of my personality traits and how I learn, in kind of like the VARC, analogy, I'm very visual. So I have them right in front of me, in front of this camera right now. But it's interesting. I'm looking at them now, even thinking, well, although the circumstances have completely changed the direction of this business this year, I should have probably reviewed those a few months ago. Or, what is that measure of success? Is that still a relevant goal?
Yeah.
And I do wonder myself if people are doing this as well, or probably like myself, are we just kind of, apologies for the phrase, but pissing in the wind kind of thing, just hoping for things to happen? So definitely. Totally agree with that.
And I think a lot of times it is that having that understanding that, we make decisions of where we want to go, but we can alter that journey and we can upgrade and update our goals and our design. And that's absolutely natural and that's normal. So, as I say, for me, it's about helping business owners particularly to get really clear with that design. And then the second part is about how do we give them as much strength as possible from a mindset perspective. And a lot of that's about, getting rid of those limiting beliefs and, attitudes and the things that are holding them back, where it's like they're driving forward, but they've got one foot on the brake as well. And it could feel a bit like, start, stop. And then the third component for me, because it's not just about, hey, visualize it and be positive and it'll all happen for me. It is then about what are you actually then doing, the actions that you're taking. And for me, that's where the third part of the formula comes in. It's the strategies to go, are you actually also following the plan or the game that actually helps you use your, what I call your entrepreneurial superpowers, to recognize that you can actually do it in a way that suits you best, even if there's other people in a similar industry or in your industry doing things in completely different ways. So do it in a way that actually plays to your strengths, really.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I remember when I first started my business, you're very easily led by peers about how they've done it, and they're telling you that this is the way, but it doesn't always work like that. We're all different people, aren't we? And I learn in different ways, and I'm very much a go out there, do it, fail, fail fast, move forward, as they sometimes say. But I learn from that experience, but sometimes someone else's approach might not necessarily work for me. And I see this a lot in Facebook forums and groups that memberships people belong to. It's very much led by a certain person, and they say that this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
But, and you can easily get sidetracked from that. But I like that you, in terms of the business, you will help people understand that and give them those tips that will kind of get them in that, well, get out of your way, really, isn't it? That's the phrase. Yeah. Great. And so I guess then, in terms of this year being the year that it is, what kind of things have you seen that have been blocking people getting stuck in their journey to success?
For me, a lot of it has been around mindset perspectives. Okay. So the way I kind of think about this is absolutely in reality, even with some of my clients, their industries, their environments have significantly been impacted in terms of the way that they deliver. But a lot of times when we actually look at it, it's down to what's going through our minds that actually can make us go, right, how do we pivot? How do we focus on what we can control rather than actually then go, oh, the game's over, for example. And I have seen a lot of people, coining the term catastrophizing things. Do you know what I mean? So yes, things have to be adjusted, but they then kind of went to the other extreme. And that could be really, debilitating, and it can make us go, what can I actually do? So it is just about recognizing the stories that are going through our minds, but also working in a bit more of an agile way. And that's for me, like I work with my clients in 90-day sprints because I really like the fact that it gives us the action to, really focus on something that will help move things forward. But it gives us that vitality and that freshness, like, New Year's resolutions where you kind of go, right, what's next? Well, we get to do that at least 4 times during the year. And it stops us from actually trying to think we have to have everything completely figured out. Because for me, it's right, well, what's my best thinking about this next 90 days? Absolutely. I help people and I understand, like, what's their bigger vision so that we know generally where we're moving towards. But it gives us that chance to go, right, well, what's the best things that I can do to help myself or my business move forward during that period of time? And that's kind of where, if you work more agile, it has been about, well, okay, well, that particular product or service might not be the right fit for the marketplace right now, but what can I actually do? And a lot of my clients have actually been really excelling in this period of time because they have taken a bit of a step back to go, where are we? But then their mindset's kicked in and then they've redesigned things. But then the strategies have been about, right, how do we move things forward as well? So it is just about the way that we look a lot of times at situations, but then how we act upon it, from my thoughts.
Yeah, it's really nice. I love that thing with the new year. I think a lot of people sometimes will put things off till it's like a Monday or next month we'll do it. But that 90-day also gives you that deadline as well, doesn't it? And something we were talking about before this was that the quiz that I did, which talks about procrastination. I've massively suffered this year in terms of the business because, ironically, I've been building this business up for so many years now, given that golden opportunity to go out there, full time, do what I want to do and create side businesses. And then with everything taken away, you're given like 3 or 4 months of lockdown when there's absolutely so much time I could grow that business. And it's almost like I don't have a deadline. So I kind of procrastinate and think, well, I could do that, but I don't want to. And I love the idea that you're intensifying it by giving you that time. And the idea that you were saying, echoes very similar to some of the stuff that we were talking about in the last couple of episodes about mental toughness through all of this. This is about understanding that whatever it is has happened. Let's learn from this. Let's move forward. Do you think that the motivation, there's a motivation thing that lies in this? Because I know that one of the things that I've tried to do was online shows, which was great. But then there's this part of you that thinks, I really should pivot or do this maybe, or do something different. But because there's no kind of clarity or end goal, you don't feel motivated to do it. So do you see a lot of that?
I do, and I think this goes back down to the design element for me, okay? Because there's so many things that we could do, right? And the amount of times that I'm chatting to peers as well that says, oh, why don't you do this, or you should do this? And I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. That's a great idea in my industry. But if it actually doesn't fit with, okay, what my design is or what my aspirations are in that way, it could be a good idea for someone, but not necessarily for you. And that's kind of where actually just by having a conversation with yourself often and going, right, that is a good idea. Is there ways that I could potentially take elements of that to be able to move things forward? Then that's great, but not necessarily being able to go or thinking that you have to just go from one extreme to the other just because that's what people are doing or that's what you could do as well. So, and that's kind of where I do see people that went, I could completely do everything online, but it doesn't necessarily fit with what they want to make happen. And that's great that they recognize that. But then for others, it's like I've actually wanted to do this for a while, but always something's got in the way. But this has given them an opportunity to go, hold on, how can I actually move that in my business as long as it's still aligned to their values and stuff as well?
It's exactly what you said, because just thinking about this now, about kind of getting stuck and getting out of your way. Doing online shows for me was because that's what everybody else was doing. And you're led into that path because it's the natural path and this is what's doing. But even over the last couple of months, I'm now starting to open my eyes thinking, well, maybe there's other things that I could do. I don't necessarily need to do maybe an online show. I could use my skills to probably teach people how to present, speak, or do those kinds of things that you have. But because your perception is led by what other people, that's how you get stuck, isn't it? And then like me, like I've answered my own question now, haven't I, to you, about how I'm not motivated now to do it because I'm probably not seeing the results. But like you said, I probably should have gone back and thought, well, does this fit with my values? Does it fit with where I'm wanting to go probably longer term rather than short term? And if I'd have probably reflected, then maybe I probably should have done something different.
And the key thing is, it's about us recognizing and giving ourselves that chance to go, okay, what can we do? But also recognizing that we get to change things if they're not working for us. I'll give you one example of that. So again, in my world, there's many ways that you can help business owners as a coach. There's one-to-one coaching clients, which I still do and I absolutely love. Whereas there's others in my industry that are like, oh, that's not time leveraged. It should be all, massive group stuff or all online courses. But I know that I still love actually working with people and going, right, let's get into the nitty gritty at what we need to do for you. But a few years ago, I did launch a monthly membership type of group and it was going well, but there was just something that still wasn't really gelling with me. And when I really was honest with myself and I looked at, well, why am I doing it? And a lot of it was down to, well, it was the good thing to do, or you should do that in my industry. But I was actually getting really frustrated because it was this ongoing thing. It meant that some people were, coming and talking about the same thing month on month, in and out. And I'm going, are you really making a difference? But whereas if it was a one-to-one, I'd be like saying to them, I'd be like, right, hold on a second. Do you know what I mean? So I was doing it in a gentle way. But also there was this like ongoingness of it that actually wasn't really helping either. So I took that decision to go, yes, it was profitable. It was, adding value in a way, but I went, no, let's stop that. And actually that's when I then changed and I now do 90-day masterminds, because what that then does is it gives everybody that element of, right, you're in this group for a reason, okay? It keeps us really focused. It allows us to kind of have a start and an end point as well. And it means that we're all kind of helping people on that journey during that period of time. And that's worked really, really well for me as well. So I'm just sharing that because, on one hand, you might look at the other model and go, that makes more sense. It's, leveraged. But if it's not right for you, then what's the point?
Absolutely. Yeah, great advice. Well, I love this. And one of the things that I wanted to chat to you about, you've mentioned in one of your podcast episodes, and you mentioned it on the Cognitize Connect when you did your fantastic presentation, was about personality typing and finding your superhero. And it's something that I completely resonate with. And in the last 5 days, I've recently attended a course, which was a speaker course. Really great 5 days, actually in real life as well, which was in a real training room, which was, oh my God, it's not Zoom, it's not virtual. But I certainly felt like I didn't have my superpower at some point because, as I shared with you before this, I was going up on stage and speaking and it was great. I was still doing and delivering the value that I always deliver. But because I wasn't wearing like my suit like I do when I perform, it didn't feel like I naturally do. And I love this idea that you shared about finding your alter ego. So for anybody listening right now, what does this mean about finding your superpower?
Yeah, well, there's two angles on it. So there's one where a great guy called Todd Herman, he talks about it in terms of the alter ego effect. And that's very much like, from an NLP point of view, it's like an anchor effectively. So it's like when you do something, it gets you in that zone to go, this is who I am. What did I do to kind of step up? And that could be really simple for you. It could be what you wear. It could be, listen to a piece of music before we start to do certain things. So I know, for example, when I'm doing more of a corporate type of, event, I kind of am more kind of, shirt. I don't wear ties. I've not worn a tie for work for years, right? But I then know, okay, that's Osmaan showing up in that way. Whereas then when I'm working with other clients, I'm going, well, actually, how am I showing up in that sense? So we can have, different things that help us to kind of, suit up or get ourselves into that state. So that's one perspective of it. The perspective that I, bang on about even more is around, if we can understand what our superpower is, that's bringing in a combination of our personality, our talents, and what then actually gets us into flow. And flow is just that word where, things are easy for us. It's more natural. It just feels like we could do it for hours and hours, and time just, flies in a really positive way. As I said before, my background was in HR and L&D. So there's so many personality tests out there, and I've done probably most of them, right? And and they're all great. They tell you colors or letters, etc. And it was about, so I've been in business now for like 13 years. So I think it's been about 11 years or so where, a colleague said to me, talked about wealth dynamics as a profile tool. And I was like, oh, I've done these things before. And then they were like, no, really do it. And I did it. And what it basically showed me, it was one of the only tools that really kind of are geared towards business owners rather than just, corporate stuff. And it showed me that there's 8 different types of entrepreneurs. I call it your entrepreneurial superpower. And it then allows you to recognize, well, are you more like a creator or a star? Or in my case, I'm a trader. And obviously these all sound like labels. But ultimately, it gives you that chance to go, well, you, with your superpower, you have a unique way of doing things, all the way from how you market yourself, how you deliver things, how you connect or collaborate with people. But if you're trying to do it in a different way, that'd be like, Batman trying to use Superman's, or Superwoman's superpowers. It just doesn't work, right? Yeah. So that's why for me, whenever I work with any client, the first thing that we do is, and even in my masterminds, everybody does the wealth dynamics profile test, right? And I honestly believe if you're a business owner, it's essential, because it then just gives you that element of going, okay, am I actually leaning into my superpower as much as I can? But also, how do I recognize where some of my kryptonite might be? And that doesn't mean that you don't do certain things, because let's say, for example, you might go, I'm not great with numbers and detail. Well, you might still have to do things like your taxes, etc. But it doesn't mean that you have to do it. So it's not an excuse for, inexcusable behavior, but it means that you can go, let's make sure I don't, spend the majority of my time doing that. Or how can I get someone else who actually has that superpower to come in and make that easier for myself as well? So It was a real game changer for me, Ricky, because I think before that, even when I was running my business, I was very much probably influenced too much by those that were creators and stars, which are the opposite profiles for me. And it just didn't feel like it was really me doing me. And then when I recognized I'm a trader, I was going, okay, well, what does that mean in terms of my approaches or my strategies? And since then, it's been a huge, huge influence for me to say, yes, I'm doing more of that. And no, I'm not doing that as well.
Definitely, yeah. And hence stuck, getting stuck, because you can just wrap yourself up with all the tasks that I remember, I can't remember who it was now. I think it was James Sinclair that talks about these high value tasks and these low value tasks. And sometimes you can get stuck into, like admin. But if that's, like you said, not one of your main preferences, why are you spending all that time doing it? Where, like you going to say, you could probably outsource it maybe, or get another team member to do that for you. Yeah, I love that. I'm the same with you, working in that kind of L&D world. Myers-Briggs, Insights, epigenetics, I love them all. It's kind of like a preference, isn't it? I know that where you can put your energy into, and hence getting stuck. If I'm going to put my energy into where I like doing, for me, it's probably, I haven't done the wealth dynamics, but it's probably going to be like a creator. I like creating stuff. I'm very visual, very presenter mode, that kind of thing. So admin and stuff like that, it's not really my cup of tea. So why should I waste all my time doing it?
Definitely. But also for me, it allows us to recognize that there are different things that we have to do for our business. Okay. So I typically work a lot with, creators and stars in that way, where they're so visionary. They're so great at starting things and making things happen. But the things that frustrate me then is that they don't actually necessarily see their ideas truly come alive. And that's not because it's not necessarily a good idea or it's not been executed well. It's because they've actually just got really bored, and then they went on to something else. So it's like they planted a few seeds here, started it, and then they go, oh, done. What's next? So a lot of, but whereas my superpower is very much more my grounded person, it's more about, right, how are we going to make that happen? And what, good sense of timing in that way. So a lot of times it's about going, right, let's use your superpower, but then also recognize where there'll be certain stages of your business where it's absolutely okay for you not to be dominated by that. So let's say, for example, a creator, they're always great with brand new ideas, but once that idea is kind of, created, then we want to make sure that then, we get into the delivery, the execution of it. And you don't have to do the whole thing, but it means that you then go, right, actually, it's going to give me a chance to see that idea really materialize and make the impact as well.
Definitely. And do you think this is why we see, they say, don't they, it's the first 5 years why businesses don't survive? Do you think that people too many times are just putting on the hats all the time, but not really passing that hat to somebody else that could do it? Like you said, I might have to wear that hat today, which is tax and accountants, but maybe I could pass that around or share that hat with someone else in a way. So I can still focus on things,
Definitely an element of that from my experience. And it's also then about, are we really getting clear about what we're doing that is working, but also what's not working as well? So there are certain types of personalities and superheroes, as I call them, superpowers. It gives you that chance to go, well, how quickly do we adapt? How quickly do we pivot? How risk averse are we? I've had somebody that literally, I was coaching last year, at the start last year, and before they came to me, they were like, oh, I really need to make this business work. And I'm like, what's driving it? Because that's why I left the corporate world to make happen. And they've been trying to make this business happen for, it was 10 plus years. But actually, they were just still so dogmatic around, I set my mind to it, I need to make it happen. But when we really dug down, it was like the idea was so expired. I mean, and even it wasn't motivating them anymore. So I think it is that element of giving ourselves that chance, as we talked about before, to make sure that we are kind of being a bit more agile and going, right, is this still working for me? Okay, how do I lean into it a bit more so that we're not just either doing things for the sake of doing things, even if it's not working, and then that's just kind of like the madness. But also recognizing that we don't jump too quickly just because we might be a bit bored or we come across the first obstacle. It's about how do we really connect with what we're doing.
Absolutely. This just brings to life the phrase that I used to use a lot when we were teaching a lot of growth and fixed mindset, which was the definition of insanity by Einstein, doing the same things over and over and expecting different results. And you can certainly see that right now. I felt that back in April. I was sitting there downstairs in the dining room going, why am I getting bookings, to book me? And I'm thinking, well, there is a pandemic going out there, but I was so used to just doing like wedding fairs, which was in person. And I had to just sit down and think, okay, that result, that's not going to get me the results anymore. So I need to do something a little bit different. And like you said, I think there's probably a lot of businesses out there that are still hung up or clung to the idea of this is how I started it, so this is how I'm going to carry on. But actually take some time to go back and reflect, is that idea actually working? And I bet, so many businesses out there right now, especially controversial in the wedding industry. There was a very sad video that came out the other day from the government, that the government mentioned that the wedding industry is not a viable business. And they said in Parliament that they need to get better jobs, which didn't go down very well, obviously, in the wedding industry. But I think there's a lot of people out there right now that there is probably so much opportunity for them. And they might need to just go back, maybe, like you said, and reflect and look at what was that driving force to get to where they need to go.
Definitely. And that comes down to, the design part of it, but also even sometimes the strategies part of it as well. So for example, I see so many people, and again, it comes down to your different superpowers, where they might go, oh, all my marketing now needs to be a certain way, i.e. it has to be all social media. I know that's a very generalized thing. And I'm going, absolutely, I love social media and I use it a lot. But then when you actually get down to it, I'm going, what's your goal? Is your goal to, for example, be this big name, this big influencer, or is your goal to actually get X amount of clients that you can help and make an impact on? And when we get down to that level of honesty in that conversation, it then allows you to go, well, if that's your goal, let's say for you, it's like booking, X amount of wedding events, right? You might go, there could be easier ways for me to actually make that happen. I could actually just pick up the phone old school, speak to some of the people that have actually seen me in action before to say, hey, this is what's happening. Do you mean this is what I'm loving to do? And do you know anybody? And it's like, I mean to say this in a nice way, but actually sometimes people forget that old school stuff can work really, really well. And then they're so blinkered and go, it has to be a certain way. But actually it's about, well, what can we do that actually makes life easier for us, but also could be more natural as well?
100%. Absolutely. So a great point then would be then for anybody that's in their business right now, as this podcast is all about helping people to create more success in their life and to be the best version of themselves, what tips would you recommend to anyone right now who may be feeling stuck? You can plug your business at this point if you want to, but if they are feeling stuck and they need to get past that barrier, what would you recommend right now?
Perfect. So I think the first thing is to really recognize where you're getting stuck on. So I talked about the rapid transformation formula. I've got a free quiz. So if you go to rapidtransformation.co.uk, right at the front of that homepage, there's a quiz that you could do in less than 2 minutes. And what that allows you to do is it gets you to see, well, how strong is your design? How strong is your mindset? Or how strong is your strategies? Or how weak are those areas, right? And it might be a whole combination. And the reason why I suggest that as the first step is because, again, I see so many people, they go, right, I need to go and learn X, Y, and Z, and they try and fix the strategy. But actually, it's not the strategy that needs fixed, it's the mindset or it's the design. So if you figure that part out first of all to go, right, where do I need to put my time and attention on? And it might be just a small fine tune. It might be strengthening some of those scores or those foundations, or it might be a chance to go, I get to overhaul or upgrade these as well. So that then allows us to be able to go, right, what's going to be the game changer for me? And then we can then dive into the, right, okay, if it's a mindset stuff, what's going on here? What's the stories am I telling? Paying attention to, the internal dialogue and the words I'm using and the way that I'm seeing things. And it allows us to then be able to go, right, actually, that's what I can change. It might be the strategies. It might be a case of, right, I need to find out what my superpower is, do the wealth dynamics profile. Again, you can find out details about that on my website. But then that gives you that chance to say, well, am I actually using those strategies in a way that would get more flow for me and my business? So
love that.
Does that help answer that? So it's about figuring out what needs to be fixed before trying to fix it, really.
Yeah, absolutely great advice. And I have to say this because I actually did the quiz about half hour before we started this call. And it was really simple. It took me about a minute and a half, really good, probably about 15 questions, something like that. The email that you get straight back is fantastic. It really breaks down that design, that mindset, and that strategy. And just by me doing that whilst I was making a cup of tea, that's just helped me already start to underline, oh yeah, okay, so yeah, I should be working on that, or I should think about that. So yeah, absolutely, go check that out. Where was that again, Osmaan, if people need to go to the quiz?
To rapidtransformation.co.uk.
Perfect. And well, Osmaan, I'm going to say that absolutely thank you so much for coming on to this podcast. You also have a podcast as well. So if anybody wants to go check out Osmaan, where can they find your podcast?
Yep. So it's Get Out Your Way. And you'll find there's about 123 episodes, I think, so far.
Brilliant.
And they're all filled with a lot more details of what we've talked about and much more. All about how do we, focus on our design, our mindset, strategies, use our superpower. I release a new episode every Wednesday.
Thank you so much for coming onto the show.
My pleasure.
Good luck for the future. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Cheers.
Wow, what an episode. Thank you so much, Osmaan, for coming onto the show. I really enjoyed our conversation. And I guess for Magical Musings this week, I'd highly recommend go check out the show notes to take Osmaan's free quiz. I did it. It takes just literally a couple of minutes and you'll be able to get a perfect plan on what your design, what your strategy and what your mindset results are that will then help you understand where to put your energy into your business and understand a little bit more about your superpower. So go check them out. Also, don't forget to check out in the show notes for my free ebook, How to Create Awesome Videos with a Smartphone. It's free and it'll help you improve your confidence on camera. As always, don't forget to rate, review and subscribe to the podcast to let me know what you think. Let me know that this is adding value to the world out there. And I will join you on the next episode of Unlocked, the Ricky Lock podcast. Goodbye.